There isn't really a better way I could describe Hytale, the new survival crafter from some former Minecraft modders, than to say that it's basically Minecraft 2. From the block-by-block breaking and building, to the stylized environments and enemies, to the procedural world generation, this feels like the what would we change if we had the chance to start over again version of the now legendary 2009 classic. Many games have been influenced by Mojang's Trendsetter, but this is more of a cover song than a subgenre. And while developer Hypixel Studios' lawyers might not love hearing me say that, I honestly don't think it's a bad thing. Even in early access, it's a good cover. All of this will be pretty familiar if you've put any time at all into Minecraft, but with some streamlining here and there. You no longer have to begin your journey punching trees, for instance, since basic tools are made with sticks and rubble that can be collected easily with your bare hands. Also, breaking the trunk of a tree will cause everything above it to collapse and drop its resources, which was almost enough to win me over on its own. I still to this day hate having to chop upwards to hollow out a tree in Minecraft. Movement is also a lot more modern and fluid. You can jump up to 3 blocks high and pull yourself up, which feels like such a huge quality of life improvement over the 1 block jump limit in Minecraft. It's even possible to take a running leap at a ledge, hit the side, and then scramble up. We've got proper parkour now, and I don't know that I would ever want to give it up. Building has some welcome additions as well. There are actual roof pieces, for instance, so you don't need to repurpose stairs to kind of look like a roof. Most block types could be rotated using the R key before placing them. Half slabs can even be placed vertically to create thinner interior walls. However, the way they're aligned on the grid and the lack of corner pieces mean you either end up with some oddly offset layouts or missing exterior corners, which is a bit of a shame. I wish they could dynamically snap together the way fences do. Hytale also just runs better than Minecraft on my Ryzen 7 3700X, 32GB of RAM, and RTX 4070 Ti powered system. Even with the draw distance cranked up, my frame rates sit comfortably above 60. Any small hitches generally only happen when it's generating new terrain. I haven't had time to stress test this with anything as elaborate as a 1-to-1 recreation of Minas Tirith or whatever, but for now, it's like butter. Combat is fine. There are a handful of different weapon types, from swift slashing double daggers to a classic sword and shield setup with more defensive options. Each one has its own unique charge attack and a special meter that can be filled up to release a devastating finisher. Archery can be exciting, but I feel like arrows drop off too quickly to allow for really impressive long-range shots. And I suspect this has to do with the fact that enemies shot from even the current max range often have a really hard time figuring out where the shot came from, which makes it a bit too exploitable. I'm quite impressed with the enemy variety already, with everything from goblin bomb throwers to these really terrifying lava skeletons. There are a handful of new creatures to fight in every biome, like yetis in the cold mountains and flying insects in the desert. The way they spawn can feel strange and off-putting though. Especially when exploring underground, it seems like they'll tend to clump up just on the edge of the small safe zone around the player where they're not allowed to spawn, so I often turn back to leave the way I came, only to find an almost literal wall of enemies behind me. The biomes themselves have a pretty good variety as well, ranging from a chill fairy tale forest all the way up to these intimidating basalt islands that can only be accessed with some intense mountaineering. What's even cooler is that every surface biome has its own associated subterranean environments that can spawn below it. Underneath the desert, you might run into harrowing hives for giant insects. Deeper underground are scorching lava tunnels filled with fire-themed enemies. As someone who usually plays Minecraft on large biomes mode though, they do feel a bit cramped and scattered, and this can't be adjusted yet. If you're standing in the desert and you can see a swamp and a lava island just over the next hill, it gives the impression that the world is more of a theme park patchwork than a real place. Hytale also doesn't support the kinds of extremely deep caverns and monumental mountains that came to Minecraft in the last couple years when they raised both the floor and the ceiling for world generation significantly, which contributes to that diorama feeling. That said, the generated structures scattered around enhance exploration quite a bit. Trork strongholds full of hidden loot chests, often guarded by about a dozen minions and a stronger chieftain, offer exciting targets with worthwhile rewards, at least the first time through. There are even villages of neutral Quebec, though at this point they only have a limited selection of items to sell, and some of them, like recipes and new seeds for farming, feel a little bit pointless at the moment since there isn't much difference between the dishes you can cook other than the broad tiers of quality. There's very little direction in the early access launch of Hytale either. The main hub area, the Forgotten Temple, is a rotunda of literal under construction signs. I even stumbled into some dungeons out in the world where I'd be excited to throw the doors open, only to find one of these barriers promising there will be something here someday. It's not clear what the larger overarching goal is supposed to be, if any. You can progress through the different tiers of materials that are found in increasingly dangerous biomes, but I quickly ran out of things to do after that. I'm not sure if there will eventually be a story or bigger bosses to find or anything of that sort. I haven't run into them yet if they exist already. The only really specific endgame activity revolves around craftable fragment keys, which teleport you to a smaller challenge map to collect rare resources within a strict time limit. I found the whole system a bit underbaked so far, though they are one of the only efficient ways to acquire certain late-game materials. Overall, I'm quite enjoying my time with Hytale so far. Even if it is just Minecraft again, it's an enjoyable rendition with some thoughtful tweaks and additions. It's almost like someone's wish list of things Mojang will never do or can't do with its legacy tech. It took me around 40 hours to feel like I'd exhausted its progression paths, and it's the type of game I could play almost indefinitely if I get a big construction project stuck in my head. For my band of multiplayer comrades though, the question is really whether we would choose this over Minecraft or Valheim or Sons of the Forest at the moment, and the answer is not quite yet. But it already has some neat stuff those other games don't, and I look forward to seeing how it grows from here.
Reviews editor Tom Marks here with Leana Hafer, reviewer of Hytale, to talk about her tastes in survival games, a little bit more about this review process, all of that sort of good stuff. Len, I'm sure you have seen around on IGN, has been reviewing for us prolifically for years. You've reviewed survival games for us before in stuff like Valheim, Sons of the Forest, but also things like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Civ 7, Baldur's Gate 3, lots and lots of little different things. This is the first time we've talked about survival games with you after a review. So tell me about, like, what are your tastes in the genre? What do you like? You know, do you generally go for the more cartoony stuff like this where it's a little bit more lighthearted, or do you like the gritty realism of something like Ark, or where do you land in all that?
Yeah, I think that probably my two favorites are like Subnautica and Valheim. Valheim, I think, is an interesting point of comparison if we're talking about vibes and art style, because it is very stylized, but it's not really cartoony, is not how I would describe it.
Yeah, it's sort of a middle ground in that genre.
Yeah, like I don't need super hyper realistic. Obviously there's, stuff like Hytale and Minecraft are like on the very, very kind of cartoony side, which I don't mind. I don't feel like, if the gameplay's fun, I don't feel like that has like a huge bearing on how much I end up enjoying it. But yeah, Valheim definitely kind of hits that sweet spot, I think, in terms of realism. it feels a little bit grittier, but it's also very stylized.
Yeah. What will you call Valheim your favorite right now? Like, what do you think the peak of the genre is so far? And is it still just Minecraft, because Minecraft can never be dethroned?
It's kind of hard to argue against Minecraft in certain ways, because I think in terms of the number of hours I have put into any video game ever, it's up there with, World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV and maybe some Paradox games. If I did have to pick one desert island game that I could play for the rest of my life, it would probably end up being Minecraft, just because I don't think I would ever run out of stuff to do. I enjoy building huge cities and castles and fantasy lands, which Hytale also has. It's a little bit more detailed than Minecraft in some ways. That's definitely what they're going for.
Do you think it needed that? You described this as almost sort of Minecraft 2-ish. Do you think that Minecraft was getting dated in some of those ways?
I am glad somebody took another crack at it, I guess is how I would put it, is because I think there are certain things in Minecraft that are just calcified, whether it's just because so much of the code is legacy code, or just Mojang as a developer kind of has gotten set in certain, design philosophies. I'm glad to see what somebody else's take on a Minecraft is.
Let's talk about the other aspect of this review. I think this is the first conversation, post-review interview that I've done about an early access game.
Yeah.
Which we, if people don't know, we review early access games. We basically treat them at launch like, hey, is this worth your time? What do we think of it right now? But obviously with the caveat in mind that it's not done yet. We know that. We give the devs some sort of leeway with that. And then typically when a game eventually reaches 1.0, we will then go and revisit and re-review then. So you did the review for the early access and the final of Sons of the Forest. You did Baldur's Gate 3 early access and then the final, which obviously turned into a very large and great game.
Yep.
So this is a process you're familiar with, but I wanted to ask you, do you hold it to a different bar, or do you kind of give it a benefit of the doubt in places you otherwise wouldn't? Just what's going through your mind?
I don't think I really give it more benefit of the doubt than I would any other game that you could go pay money for. I just make sure that I communicate, in the text, that I'm aware that it's early access, and I might bring up some stuff that's on the roadmap, or stuff that I know is an issue that the devs have also said they know is an issue. I think that's really something where a lot of the nuance comes out in just the writing. Whereas at the end of the day, when we get to the verdict at the end, I'm still telling you basically in the same terms as if this was a fully released game. Is this worth your money right now? That's still what I see as my main objective at that point.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I think it's totally valid to say, well, this isn't finished. Of course, it's going to be missing this such and such thing, which is why we don't turn a blind eye to that. But also, like you said, they're charging people for this.
Right.
If somebody is going out and saying, hey, I want you to spend money on this, then I think they're under... we're fully allowed to say whether it's worth that money and put a number to that. And I don't personally, I don't think that's out of line.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the Baldur's Gate 3 example. I gave the early access a 7 and the final game a 10. And I think those were both pretty accurate in terms of if those were the two places you chose as jumping on points. And you can't really score the idea of a game. You can't really score the promise of a game.
Yeah.
It's about what is here now. And I hope it becomes everything they say it's going to be, or that they want it to be, but it doesn't always turn out that way.
Right, especially because we've reviewed plenty of games with roadmaps that never came to fruition for one reason or another, right? Or games that had ideas of what they wanted to be and then changed it in early access development. They realized the audience wanted something else and they went a different direction, right? This stuff happens. Like you said, you do have to acknowledge that what a developer's plans are, but you can't just assume that those plans are going to be completed in the perfect way that they want them to either, because we've seen evidence both of that happening and that not happening.
Yeah, it's also interesting because with Hytale specifically, I would say Like, I criticized it for like, you run out of stuff to do too fast, but I think it has more stuff in it now than Minecraft did in like 2010, 2011, maybe even 2012.
Yeah.
But kind of like the standards have changed a little bit. Like, that's not as mind-blowing anymore.
Yeah, it's a different time for sure, right?
Yeah.
A lot less games were coming out when Minecraft first launched than now.
Yeah, and nobody had done anything really like that before. Whereas now it's like, okay, I'm really thinking about what are the reasons I would boot this up instead of Minecraft as kind of a one-to-one comparison.
Well, Len, thank you so much for chatting with us a little bit more about the review and your tastes and all that jazz. If you want another chat, we had a conversation at the end of Hades 2, your review of Hades 2. People can go check that out. And if you want something completely different, 2026 is off and running, and our very first review of the year was The Legend of Heroes Trails Beyond the Horizon. So if you want to check out an RPG review, go check out that one. And for everything else, stick with IGN.